I don't know how you cannot be impressed after seeing this presentation, to not just be impressed, but to be thankful for the work that has been done in this congregation because of the generous portion of money that was given last year on Mission Sunday, that $85,007. It was because of that generous contribution that all of this work could be done. And just watching, and even though being there, just seeing this in review, we want to thank Brother John for the great job that he did. And it makes us thankful, those of us who had the opportunity to go. It makes us thankful to have been able to been there. And we count ourselves as fortunate to have been there and to seen some of this firsthand. I'll just offer this one piece of commentary. The young man, the Diego boy that didn't know about the Auburn hat, Clayton Guzman knows what the Alabama hat means. Trust me, he knows what that means. I don't know if I'd ever heard this song, Send the Light, sung the way we just sang it until we were down in Belize just a few weeks ago. And one night Scott was leading singing, and he led that song, and we sang that song just the way we just sang it. In the first verse, we talked about how the light needs to be taken. In the next verse, we talked about how it needs to be sent. In the next verse, we talked about how the light needs to be taken. And in the last verse, we talked about how we need to be the light. And so I would remind you that we have the opportunity next Sunday to contribute in order for the gospel to be sent. And I want to remind you of something. You can be a sender. Everybody in this assembly, even the youngest, that perhaps get money for chores or just a weekly allowance, you can give some of your money. Everyone can be a sender. I meant what I said a moment ago when we appreciated that $7. Now, the $85,000 is so important that was given last year, but the $7, it was important as well. And so every amount that is given is appreciated, and all of us can be, in fact, senders. We understand that only so many can be takers, especially on a trip like we've just reviewed, the trip down to Belize. We realize that not everybody in the congregation can go. Some can be takers. And those who are fortunate enough to go, we go reminding the people where we go that we're there because some have sent us, because of the generous contribution that you make. But I want to remind us as we close this lesson today, the importance of actually being the light. All of us can be the light. It takes some to sin, it takes some to take, but it takes all to be. All of us need to be the light. Something very interesting happens in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 4. God set a precedent that forever remains true, where it says in Genesis 1 and verse 4 that He separated the light from the darkness. And that will always be the case. The light and the darkness always needs to be separated. And the only way that can continue to be is for some to be the light. Not everybody in this world will be the light, but those who are Christians have to be the light. And we have a job to do, and I want to encourage you to continue being the light. It is said in the second chapter of the book of Philippians, in the 15th verse, that we should be blameless and harmless, children of God without fault in the midst of a crooked and a perverse generation. And Paul there says, among whom you should shine as lights. Now, the way that you shine as a light is, it says in verse 16, you hold fast the word of life. And so I want to encourage all of us today to examine our lives and to ask self, am I being the light? Am I being the light? And then the only way I can be the light is to hold forth the word of life. And that means I'm being the light because I'm following the word. I'm being the light because I am a Christian like the Bible says. I'm being the light because I'm living the Christian life like the Bible says. And so you have the opportunity to send. Maybe you'll have the opportunity, if you haven't already done so, to take it, but you can always be it. Always be the light. And you can't be the light without being a Christian. The concept of light and darkness, as you know, represents that of goodness and corruption. The goodness is the light. The gospel is the light. Christianity is the light. And everything that is opposed to goodness and the gospel in Christianity is the darkness. And so we have to separate ourselves from the darkness. You can't do that on your own. You can only do that through God and through coming to Him on His terms. And we want to give anyone here this morning the opportunity to do that, to come out of the darkness, to come out of your sin, and to walk into the light. Be baptized into the blood of the Son of God who died on the cross to give us that hope, to come from darkness into light, to come from damnation into salvation. And if you're not a Christian, we want to beg you today to think very seriously about your most important possession. That's your soul. And if you are not a Christian, we want to give you the opportunity to become one today. Perhaps you are a Christian, and yet you haven't been living the gospel out in your life. You know you haven't been being the light. And it's time for you to flip the switch, if you will, and to get right with God, to put priorities in order, and to once again start being the light. And if we can assist anyone here today in response to the gospel, we want to do that right now as together we stand and as we